Closing time. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. From Circuit Zandvoort, sanctioned by the Absolute Beginners League, this is the Global SimRacing Channel's closing round coverage of the Formula Neagle Season 21 Championship. Now, Semisonic might have sung about a last call for whiskey and beer, but today's closing time for Formula Neaglers is a last call for one of two things: legacy or momentum. For Lee Anderson, a 53 marker advantage in the points has already seen the crown tailored to his hat size. So for Anderson, today is all about legacy, riding a 4-race win streak. The Brit is just 2 victories away from matching the consecutive win record held by the legendary Aaron Nung. For everyone else, the goal is to keep Anderson's frosted purple machine out of victory lane, and in doing so, grab some momentum for the upcoming season 22. Legacy and momentum. Reasons enough to stay tuned for all the Skippy action streaming your way live as it happens on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Peace, good health, and welcome to yet another Formula Neagle broadcast way up in the press box to bring you our bird's eye view. It's DJ Clark, alongside yours truly, Phil Soup Zahn. Sean Ambrose has director duties with cameras provided by W. Beard. The Absolute Beginner League has its roots in Dutch soil, so it should be no surprise that Formula Neagle's last Zandvoort visit was only 2 seasons ago. Lee Anderson sat on the pole that day, but it was the Season 6 champ, Tuan Tran, returning for one last moment of glory to drink the victory Heineken. So as the series organizers enjoy some home cooking, let's take a look at today's racing venue.
Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing, it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schievelock, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race, and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue.
Where the rents are high and the seabirds cry, the dunes of Zandvoort. Now here to talk about the track in a little more detail. You know, it might be designer jeans, maybe it's desk job. We don't know what the initials stand for. Here's my booth mate, DJ Clark.
How you doing, Soup? Zandvoort is one of the greatest tracks in the world, obviously coming back to the Formula One calendar as of next year, tentatively. The layout here on the iRacing service does not include the new high banking that was installed, but that does not take away any from the undulating, moving track all around the hills, or the dunes, up in the northern Netherlands. It's fast, it's flowy, it's hard to overtake, notoriously so, but I still think in these skippies you're going to see some good action, specifically going into turn 1 and all the way down the blast into turn 10.
A fun track indeed. You know, iRacing has so many features. One of the things we forget about sometimes is they have the dynamic track and the dynamic weather, but here at the dunes, this is one of the few tracks where you can actually bring some sand onto the track where it becomes an issue, a feature that we don't talk about much anymore, but a really cool feature. Let's go ahead and talk about this feature. How about we look at the points? And we talked about it in the opening. You see there, Lee Anderson, he has that active 4-race streak, and for his quest to match the Roland Estonian, an all-time record of 6 wins in a row. The Junkyard Dog, Yush Junk, has a small lead over 2-time champ David Third-Degree Burns. Now, this is weird. Take a look at the drivers in 4th and 5th, as Andre Salander is ahead of Eric Lukl by 2 points. But when we look at the F2 championship, the story is different. Let's go there right now and look at that. When we bring up these standings, notice because the F1 points are scored against all the drivers and the F2 points are scored only against other F2 drivers, on this ladder, Lukl is ahead of Salander. That's kind of cool, isn't it? The Trident, Frederick Neptune, has had the best season in memory. Nicholas Falk is chasing that podium spot. And then you got Hendrik Kamara and Christopher Garros in a deadlock for that final graphic position. Finally, the last graphic we'll look at is the team standings. Here it's David Burns and Vincent Brame. They're in strong position to win yet another team championship. And to be honest, they're doing it more out of muscle memory by performance on the track. These guys have just show up, they score their points, and they're going to get another crown, I think, for 2 stupid dogs. When it comes to Street Trends 4 and Team Kombach, again, it's going to be all about Salander and Lukl, as Salander races for Street Trends and Lukl races for Kombach. Now, GSRC is always picking up new viewers, so for those new to Formula Neagle, here's a look at the race details.
This is the 6th and final round of Season 21 of the Absolute Beginners Formula Neagle Series. We are racing the Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars. It is a 40-minute race around Zandvoort here. Completely open setup. You get to make any changes that you can make on these skippies, but there is a 51% fuel limit, and that means that we will get a pit stop halfway through the race. And as opposed to a lot of the other series that we see on the service, this is a standing start, a Formula One style start, which always leads to a very, very fun drop of the flag.
Let's go ahead and look at the weather here. I'm seeing a bit of a marine layer here from the North Sea. What do you see, GG?
Yeah, it looks a little bit like where I currently am in Los Angeles, with a little bit of non-heat haze, as it were. It's currently about 64 degrees out on track right now, which is going to make things relatively easy for these drivers. You're not going to have a lot of heat slip, not going to have a lot of that. That 90% humidity, though, what that is going to do is that's going to help create just a little bit more downforce for these notoriously light downforce cars. So they'll be able to get a little bit more grip through some of the fast corners on this circuit. Winds out of the south-southeast at about 10 miles an hour. That is going to have a little bit of effect going down the straight, but the minimal aero on these cars, it's not going to affect them too much.
Talked about the downforce. It's kind of a running joke here with commentators. And I almost think that the skippies are almost faster when you take the wings away. I don't know if they do anything. They look good.
They certainly make it look pretty, but no, you knock the wings off, and well, you're going to get a better run out of the straightaway, as we've also seen a couple times in Formula One as of recent. You knock off the wing on the Red Bull, and suddenly Max Verstappen can go on to win the race.
Let's go ahead and look at some of the drivers that are here today. I talked about the Junkyard Dog. That's car number 13, Yus Young. One of the most exciting drivers, especially early on. A little bit concerned about the weather today. The tires are going to be cold. Everyone needs to behave early on. He's sitting top in the practice speeds as qualifying is yet to start. And who else do we see up there in practice speeds? Well, it's all the familiar names, Lee Anderson and David Burns.
Yeah, no surprises from those guys that are doing well. Good to mention the tire temps here. Zandvoort, obviously, with long flowing corners, is you really have to put in the time, put in the effort to get those tire temperatures up. Do not be surprised if we see a couple of guys running real wide here as we ride on board with Yus Young. Run wide on that first lap down into turn 1. This is a sweeping corner. It's down to second gear. You've got to make sure everything's working hard. So on that first run, you've got to be real careful with the cold tires.
I, and our director, Joe Peak, were talking before we went live about fuel saving and how so often that's the case here in one of these Formula Eagles events where you sit back in second and save a little fuel. Maybe not quite as easy to do at this place without the long straights.
No, not at all. You're not going to get any of the run of the drafts. You're not going to be able to lift off like that. And plus, with the lack of a true slow first gear corner, as it were, at Zandvoort, you don't even have the ability to really lift and coast. So this is pretty much going to be a flat-out race. If you're able to eke out maybe 1/10 of a gallon per lap of fuel saving and combine that all into one, you maybe can eke out one more lap over your competitors, but it's not going to be something mega like we've seen in the past from these guys.
Qualifying has begun. One of the cool features of every Formula Eagle event is open qualifying. That's something we don't get to see a lot here on GSRC, and it really makes it fun. The series organizers try to emphasize the team aspect, so if you can find yourself a fast teammate to get behind, or even a fast competitor to get behind, you can steal a few tenths of seconds out there. David Burns sitting at the top of the charts right now as we ride on board with Ryan Walker.
That's right. Very similar to what we saw this weekend from Formula One at Monza. The draft can help out even just a little bit in these low downforce cars. And, well, hopefully these guys, as you can see on screen, are making this work a lot better than the professional Formula One drivers on an outlap. So kudos to them.
Now, we talked about how the F1 championship is pretty much locked up for Lee Anderson. I can tell you Anderson is here in his quest to catch the Roland Estonian, Aero Num. Anderson sitting second in line right now in car number 337, his familiar frosted purple machine. He sits behind David Burns. The real battle to watch for those when we talked about in the F2 championship, and I scanned through to see if either Solander is here, and a quick look, I do not see his name. And if I look for Eric Lukal, I also don't see his name. So sometimes the best laid plans from the commentators to set up the drama doesn't play out, as neither Solander or Lukal are here today. Well, let me catch myself. Car number 140, sitting third up in the qualifying stats. How about Andre Solander? Nice job, baby.
That's going to really, really help both his F1 and F2 chances there. Qualifying third, really going to put him ahead, especially if they're not there.
And no surprise, he sat on the pole last time Formula Eagle was here. He's back up there right now, at least tentatively. I'm talking about Lee Anderson.
That's right, and as you see here, Andre Solander on your screen going around, you're going to notice something that is inherent to these Skippy cars if you're a new viewer, and that is sliding. These cars are notorious for having very little grip, whether that be mechanical or aero, so slides are not uncommon in these cars. In fact, if you watch some of the professional tutorials on how to drive this car, some of the best of the brightest on these Skippies actually recommend you slide the car through turn 6, turn 7, these fast ones, because that's the fastest way around these track in these Skippies.
Maybe behind the Spec Ford Racer and the Lotus 79. I can't think of a car, unless we're on dirt, that you get more sideways than one of these Skippies. They are fun. They really put on a good show, and it really gives the viewer the impression that these guys are really wrestling. Not so much wrestling their car, but really just getting everything out of it as they can.
It's a car that absolutely demands driving on the limit to get the best of it, and the further over the limit that you are, the closer you're going to be to that slip, that mess up, that go. It's it's a fantastic car to drive, and it's one of the most rewarding cars when you get it right.
I want to look at car number 13, Just Junk, out there in what I'd like to call the hot dog painted car, kind of a yellow and pink looking machine. Looks like a hot dog with mustard. Can't miss it. And you can't miss him when he's on the track. He is very, very, very exciting to watch. And when he came onto the series, he was a little more, how can I put this? A little more confident than he probably needed to be. He's toned that down a little bit, and I think he's going to be a real threat when we move on to season 22. There you see him working his way around, sitting third in qualifying right now.
Yeah, Yost definitely learning that discretion is the better part of valor in the Formula Neagle series. He's put in a very solid run this season, and I agree with you, Soupy. He is going to be one to watch when we go into this next season. Maybe even he could be the one today to break up Lee Anderson's win streak. We'll have to see what happens.
Right before my very first Formula Neagle event, I spent a long time working on this driver's name. Good to see him here. Let's look at car number 28. Wojciech Potocek, a veteran for sure and one of the series organizers. Good to see him out here, sir. Currently sitting fifth in the points. Fifth in the qualifying order.
As you see him on screen there making his way around the track, great qualifying effort there for him. He's still about 0.8 of a second back from Lee Anderson's absolutely mega pole lap there, which is now usurped by David Burns coming in with a 153.47.
You want an indication to the health of a series? Look at the car counts on the final race of the season when everything is locked up. We have a healthy 23 drivers here today. Good to see that this series is strong as ever. As we look at a two-time champion, David Burns, sitting at the top of the charts.
Burns, yes, currently holding that top position by a razor-thin margin over Lee Anderson. That's going to make for an absolutely fantastic start off the line if things hold. But something tells me that Lee Anderson's still got something in his bag. I think he's making a hard push here to try to beat him.
Anderson puts in fastest lap. Talking about fastest lap, you don't get anything in qualifying, but you do get a bonus point for fastest lap in the race, as long and also if you race completely clean, which many drivers have done, and also you get bonus points for the top three in qualifying, currently going to Anderson, Burns, and Salander. Again, that would really help Salander if Luca was here today. I think without Eric being here, I think that's what DJ said. That's going to pretty much lock up that F2 championship for Andre.
Yeah, he'll be able to hang his hat pretty confidently on that with Luca not being here. But as we look down the charts, you see that this is going to be a really close race, specifically 7th through 10th, all separated by less than 1/10 of a second. This is a track that is bringing out the best in everybody, and it's going to be really, really good to see how they're going to be able to handle this once the green flag drops.
You know, we talked about incident points real quick and getting bonus points for that. Usually when you have a fast driver like Lee Anderson, he's pretty well down the chart as far as being clean as David Burns moves to the pole. Let me give you this stat. Lee Anderson this season, incidents per corner, 0.001. I believe he has one incident this entire season. It's very, very unusual to be fast and clean.
Especially considering, for those of you not familiar with the iRacing service, that you get those incident points if you run wide, if you run off track. So he has been able to just keep those consistent laps, not put a tire over the edge at all. Soup, I got to tell you, I'm not that good in my dreams when it comes to incident points.
Especially because you can actually steal sometimes by picking up those incidents if you're at certain tracks. But Anderson, very, very, very clean on that. Qualifying is over. I think everything is done. Let's go to the grid right now. We'll take it 10 at a time. When it was all said and done, it was two-time champion David Third Degree Burns sitting on the pole. He's going to be flanked by Lee Anderson, who's going to pick up this season's crown. So two, well, it's the junkyard dog, Just Junk. He's going to be inside of Nick Cardy. They have two champion, we believe. Andre Salander is going to be the 5th position inside of Wojciech Potocek. Christopher Garros in the 7th spot. He's going to be flanked by Vincent Bream. And then Josh Brain and GSRC's own Ryan Walker sit in 9th and 10th. DJ?
Lining up at the inside of row 6 is Kai Alpstead, followed by Neil Bamber lining up in 12th. Joe Cole going to be taking that 13th spot, followed by Matt Tempest, Eric Lundberg, and Rickard DeSalva lining up in row 8. Rob Izzagan lining up in row 9, and Edgar Chanelli lining up outside him in P18. Joseph Kanivi and Troy Banks making up the final in row 10.
Fact check, it is Jason Guerrera in the double duck spot. Michael Bell, one other driver put in a qualifying time, Mackenzie Mann. Paul Beatty was 24th out there. He did grid up. He didn't put in a practice time. A little scary. Didn't put in a quali time. A little scary, but he's going to be starting at the back in the 24th position. Glad you're with us here on the Global SimRacing Channel as the drivers start to grid up their race cars. Season 21, we have been here since season 5. They are short, but we've covered them all. You hear those little skippies start to harmonize. You know what to do. Gather up the chickens, take covering on the cows. The horses are out of the barn. It is two-time champion David Third Degree Burns leading the stampede down into Tarzan. He gives out a yell as he takes it in there strong. Anderson in second, making a charge up on the inside for 5th position. That was Nick Carty. He got nowhere. Salander holds down 4th with Yus Junk in 3rd.
And as we see them line here through that sweeping right-hand corner, you can see Young's trying to make some moves there on Anderson as everybody starts to file in a little bit orderly, and somebody's around. I'm not sure who that was, but it looks like contact and re-caught as there's carnage back in the field.
Kind of a battle, a little mix-up back there in the back. It looks like once it's all said and done, everybody got it going straight. I don't think anybody had to exit the race. There is a fast repair if they do, but hopefully they don't have to use that up early. Up in front, though, it is Burns, Anderson, Young. Now this question is, who will pull away? How long will the lead train be? Right now, it goes all the way back. I would say all the way, well, I can't really find a break. Maybe all the way back to 13th position with Joe Cole hanging on to that spot.
As you look there, it looked like Burns got a bit of a bad run coming out of turn 7 as we dive down here, lining onto the backstretch. And here comes Anderson pulling out alongside, ready to make that move. He's going to try to go around the outside into this right-left hair chicane. Let's see if he can do it.
Anderson can race with a clear conscience, knowing that he's got the championship blocked up, but he wants to keep that win streak going. He thinks better of it through the Audi S as he sits back. These drivers know that it's a long race and nothing's going to be decided early on because the pace is all relatively close. No one's going to be able to drive away from anybody, at least the top guys.
No, and it looks like if this first lap is any indication that this top 5 is going to stay relatively close, although Anderson and Burns starting to pull a little bit of a gap over Young with about, I would say, 3/10 or so away. As here comes Anderson again, trying down the inside into Tarzan. Let's see if he can make this work.
He gets it done, and I think this is an indication that maybe fuel, like we talked about, and saving it is not such a big factor as it would be on a normal big draft track, because Anderson has no fear about getting up in front. In fact, I think he prefers to be out there, maybe burn a little more gas, but at least he doesn't have to worry about anything happening in front of him. Safest position is out in front. Let's go ahead quickly, talk about the back half of the top 10. Wojciech Podolczak in a battle with Christopher Garros right behind him. Veteran Vincent Bream in the mix as well with Josh Brain and Ryan Walker.
Good battles all the way up and down this track. As you see here on board, they line up into that sweeping right-hand combination that is turns 6, 7, and 8. As we see Podolczak trying to get a move there, getting a little bit squirrely, not able to make it work, but he is going to just stick right there behind and see what can happen.
We talked about how long the train will be. Well, right now it's Nick Carty in 5th trying to hang on. But I really think it might go all the way back to 10th spot as we talked about that battle. Ryan Walker back in 10th, hanging on. Then there's a big break. We can look at 11th position. Joe Cole trying his best to hang on to the back of Ryan Walker, but I think he's losing ground there.
Yeah, that's the only over second gap that I can see in that first top 10. As as up at the front, it looks like Jos Junk is going to try to line up here on David Burns, may try to pull a Lee Anderson, get him down this main straight if he can get a good run here out of Lyondike. Takes a little bit more of a shallow line, trying to line this up. He may be a little far back, but that double draft may just be enough to slingshot him by.
got a little momentum. He's about halfway down the straight right now. Now he ducks to the inside. Let's see what he can do under braking. He pulls alongside Burns. Burns says, you know what? We are early on. We are just 5 minutes into this. And Young gets the position. Burns gives him a little bit of a challenge on the outside, but settles down into third. Plenty of time to make up spots.
As we jump back to Wojciech Podacek here, as he has gotten passed by Christopher Gelros, going a little bit wide there into turn 3, but gets a better exit off the corner here. We're going to check the replay.
Yeah, because he has to do it he does it on the outside. If you can make it work, getting the momentum on these underpowered skippies, you can get a good drive off the corner if you can make that outside line work, and that's how you do it.
Gelros just executing that move to perfection as we jump back live here, and Podacek not letting him go. Going back there, you can see Gelros getting nice and squirrely coming through those corners, letting the back end slide out a little bit. It's like watching a drifting circuit in these open wheel cars. It's fantastic.
Well, they can have fun battling, but while they're doing it, I'm talking about Gelros and Podacek, they are losing touch with Nick Carty in 5th, who has a 1.5 second lead. Carty has to be careful that he doesn't lose touch with the leaders as well as the front 3 now. Can we go up there real quick? If you look at those guys, Burns has opened up almost a second back to Solander. Andre going to have to really get on it if he wants to stay on the back of the front 3.
Well, and he's got Carty right behind him as you see him taking a little look there to the outside, maybe just trying to force Solander into a mistake. I think genuinely around the Zandvoort circuit, which no matter what formula you are driving is relatively notorious for its difficulty to pass, the name of the game here today is going to be pressure. It's going to be forcing the guy in front of you into the slightest of mistakes that you can capitalize on. It's going to be a lot harder to do the sort of standard passing ideas that you see as we jump back to the back there. Podacek able to get around on the inside of Gyros and it forces him off. Nice little braking on the apex, forces him back off the line, and he's able to take that spot back.
In this battle for a while, because this one is a little more exciting than what we're seeing up front. Look at Podacek really work that car. I thought he was going to lose it, but I guess he had it under control right in front of Gyros, watching the whole thing at Vincent Breen from what we like to call the popcorn position.
Really, really heads-up driving there from Podacek, just making that car wide enough to prevent Gyros from really doing anything, trying to get by him, but I would in no way consider that blocking. It's just good, solid defensive driving, heads-up driving from Podacek there.
Be right on board from Bream's car, looking up ahead of the 2 drivers in front of him. You can see that beautiful Dutch sky pushing down on the racetrack. Puffy clouds up in the sky and a nice grip in this low temperature as these skippies work their way around. There you have it. We're putting it in Celsius because we know that our majority of our viewers are not metrically challenged like your commentator is. Director, I'd like to go back to another battle if we could. Can we go to car number 8? This is 14th position, Troy Banks. We'll just check in on these guys. They've been working on it. This is Mackenzie Mann. Mann started in 20th. He's up 6 spots. Let me correct myself. Started in 23rd. He is up 8 spots. Banks has also picked up 6.
Those are the 2 of the highest movers in the race, Mackenzie Mann being the hard charger thus far as you see them working their way through that tricky Audi S. Such a difficult corner, but also highlights one of the things that does make Zandvoort so special, and that is the almost constant camber to these corners you see all the time.
Asperlide, sorry to interrupt, but Yus Young decided to make a pass. Now, I don't want to be cavalier about this. Yes, we have a new leader, but honestly, these guys know the rules there, or at least the unwritten rule. We'll look at this as Young makes the late braking down into Tarzan. Oh, how I wish I had practiced my Tarzan yell for this race, because it would be so fun to use it right now. Watch the hot dog car come out.
Nice little pop there to the inside. Later on the brakes, overshoots slightly. Anderson, he is prevented from taking that over-under line by Young. Really, really good driving once again. Proving me a little bit wrong in terms of forcing somebody into a mistake. That was just a case of I'm coming through and nothing you can do to stop me.
Boy, we try to sell the competition to you, and the talent pool is deep. They call it the absolute beginners. Don't be fooled by that. These are all talented drivers, but man, the cream always rises, and when it's all said and done, Anderson, Young, and Burns, the drivers you would expect, a 3-car battle up front. Let's check in. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say a three-car battle that's pulled out almost a 3-second advantage over Andre Solander back and forth. But take it away, Scoop.
Well, I thought, why don't we go back and look at Solander and Carty as they're doing their best. You got the 3 cars up in front, and then these guys pretty much are by themselves here. It's 3 seconds up to Burns, and then Carty's got about a second and a half back to Potacek. So these guys race alone for 4th and 5th.
And you see that gap starting to spread out there a little bit. Solander getting a hair wide coming out of turn 12 and diving down into Lyondike. Just the grip level as we jump back up to the front as Lee Anderson is making a move around the outside into Tarzan. Can he make it stick? No, it looks like Young's going to be able to get him. Anderson going to try for the over-under, but once again prevented from doing anything. Great driving there from Yost Young.
Some of this might be a little bit of feeling out as well for what they're going to try 30 minutes from now, because chances are is going to be these 3 guys together on the last lap, assuming that their pit stop goes well. Let's stay with the leaders for a minute because we got something coming up. Car in 23rd position. Rob, let me get this one right here as I take a shot at that. Izenga racing up there on the lead car, the last car on the lead lap. Let's see what happens. Rob, it's easy to let 1 car go by. It's hard when you got a train of 3. Let's see how he does it.
Do you not want to be in Rob's position right now, as this is about to turn into a multi-class race with just how fast these top 3 are going? As you can see, as he's nice, gets out of the way there. Great job from Rob to let him go.
Good spot to lift. That's how you do it. He lifted. He stayed kind of in the racing line, which is what you want to do. If you want to lift, go ahead and stay up there. Let him go around you. Good job. There's Keep coming. And you can see up in front of the battle there that let's go to the lead as they are side by side. Boy, I can't believe how hard Anderson is really pressuring Young here. This is a little bit not the modus operandi I would expect. There's a little hard racing going on in front.
No, this is very much not what is typical of Lee Anderson's sort of cool, steady, and calm approach. He is fighting tooth and nail for this. Even runs a little bit over the curbs there coming out of turn 12, really trying to push. He's got a lower line coming out of Lyondike turn 13. He may just have enough of a run. He's going to try here again on the main straight to try to get by Young.
Got the inside line. I don't think Young will put up much of a battle. Let's see. And boy, he does. He stays in there. He keeps that yellow car on the outside. Anderson gets there. Young's going to have to tuck in. Leaves a little bit of an opening for Burns, but Burns has no desire to get into that mess. So with that settling down, we want to go ahead and talk about 2 other drivers we haven't talked much about. Let's go to 9th position, car number 946. This is Josh Brain and Ryan Walker. They are really close in their fighting, and they're not that far behind Vincent Brayman 8th, which is about to turn that battle for what would be 6th position into 5-car train.
No, this could get very, very interesting as you see them working each other, trying to figure it out. They've been just going back and forth, left and right. And if you want to check out them or any of the other timing and scorings that are worth showing up here, go make sure to check out GSRC.tv, where you can see our live timing across the board.
Yeah, man, that really adds an extra element to your broadcast, or to your viewing pleasure. It really is good. 5-car battle now for 6th position. Garros, Potacek, Brain, and Walker.
As you see there, Brem running a little bit wide, opening up a little bit more for Walker there as they come through this series of corners back down here onto the back stretch. I thought that was going to be a better run from Josh Brem, but Brem just able to keep the power down, keep him behind. They're still about a half a second back of Potacek, so it's going to be a second here to try to catch up, but we'll have to see what happens.
Oh, Potacek might have picked up a slow-down penalty as he tries to get out of the way. He's going to let, there goes Potacek actually fending off. Well, he's going around the lap car now. Vincent Brain back in 8th position.
I wasn't able to see it, but yeah, that does have all of the indications of a slowdown. As you look at the screen there, David Burns saying, you know what, you two can fight for the lead, but I want you to know I've got the speed, putting in a 1:53.379 to set the fastest lap of the race.
That's what happens when you sit back there in 3rd position, probably laid back a little bit, got some good runs. Very, very, very clean race. I look down here, the attrition almost non-existent. Edgar Sanchinelli not racing. I think he just called. I'm not even sure he actually took the grid. 22 drivers still on the lead lap. They had that little dust up on the first lap where some drivers got together, but they all kept racing.
As we jump back here to this battle for P9 with Josh Brand and Juan Walker, you know, I thought they were going to be able to close that gap up to Vincent Brem, but it's still hovering at about a second behind. These guys just really taking each other's time. You know, Soup, as you said earlier, this is going to be, I think, just sort of a bide and wait your time until the pit stops, and then we're going to see all hell break loose once these guys have started to come in.
Actually, if you follow up that train a little bit from 9th, you can go all the way up now to 4th. There's Andre Solander and Nick Carty. They've been run down by Christopher Garros. As we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 car battle for that position.
And you see Carty running a little bit wide there. That's going to open up an opportunity for Gyros. It's going to be really, really difficult to see if he's going to be able to try to do this. He's going to get the run a little bit of a tighter line coming through that last corner. I think he's going to make a nice run down the main straight and dive it into Tarzan.
Remember, we have a different attitude here. The 36 is on the move, so Garros gets around. Started in 7th position, now up into 5th. And we'll be able to tuck in behind Andre Solander. Great racing. Oh, right there. Almost getting into the back of Garros was Nick Carty. He got it wound up. Maybe gave the gearbox a little punch with the nose, but it all worked out okay.
Really heads-up driving there from Carty, and that really opened the door up to Wojciech Podacek, who is now all over his gearbox trying to get it. But here's Carty fighting back on Garros, really making this not easy for anybody, as these guys continue to just give us an amazing battle here in Formula Neagle.
I know we got 3 drivers out in front, Anderson, Young, and Burns, who are nose to tail, but honestly, they're behaving much better than these guys back here. This is where the action is. Solander leading Garros with Carty on the move as well. All these guys have visions of maybe a podium position if something happens up front. This is a great battle going on. The caboose in the train, Ryan Walker. Started in 10th, racing in 10th, biding his time.
As we continue to watch this battle, it's kind of fascinating to watch Nick Carty here, as he is taking consistently alternate lines from all of the other drivers here. Looks like he's just driving with a little bit of red mist almost, just attacking the turn-in points on these corners as hard as possible, and it's costing him down the straights, frankly, and it looks like it may even open him up to Wojciech Podacek here if he's not careful.
Love that high-angle shot. Carty would be the 3rd car in train, right behind the cold car, if you know your train. As they come around right at you, love that Dougie Beard shot, low angle. There is Carty. Carty's having a good run. Started 4th, hanging in there in 5th.
He's keeping it together as you see Andre Solander run a little bit wide. I think that may just open him up to Christopher Garros making a pass here. It does indeed, as he dives down to the inside, down the main straight. Can he hold it through Tarzan? Yes, he can. Solander, oh, almost contact there, it looked like, between Solander and Carty, as Carty now is going to be able to attack, and maybe Podacek too, as this is getting real exciting.
Carty is the driver to watch right now. He's had a couple close calls, and you talked about it. Boy, look at him take, you're right. Carty is the driver still in the 3rd in line that pulls the car out of the line, doesn't use the racing line that all the other 7 cars in the train do. A unique driving line from Nick Carty.
And I can't tell if that's a defensive or an aggressive line, frankly, because it's keeping Wojciech Podacek behind him perfectly, but at the same time, it's also setting him up just in case that Andre Solander makes any sort of mistakes. He will be in a perfect opportunity to capitalize.
You can see on the tower the order up front. Anderson, Young, and Burns. You're not missing anything up there. They are all this racing comfortably. This is where the excitement is. We'll try to drop back, pick up some other drivers farther back in a minute. But right now, this is where my attention is focused on. And I think we're in the pit window now, as former champion Neil Bamber has made a stop. Matt Tempest has come in as well.
I think Michael Bell as well is in there. Bamber able to get in and out of the pit lane in just under 50 seconds. So this is going to be interesting to see. This is the opening of the pit window, as we see here with about 21 minutes to go. I would expect the leaders to come in in the next maybe 3-4 laps.
We didn't mention qualifying times, but Anderson was about almost 4/10 faster than Yunk and well faster than Burns. Anderson might be the guy who could peel off early and maybe think about being able to run faster laps than Yunk and Burns could do together. As we do this, you see that Yunk now moves to the front. Go ahead.
Sorry, Soup. Once again, that great pass down turn one, as it looked like there for a second. Solander was going to try back, but you see Solander diving into the pits here, as well as Josh Brain, the first out of that amazing battle between fourth on back to take to the pits.
So if you're one of Soup's little soldiers in Soup's clipboard army, mark down Solander and Brain as they peel off early. They'll probably come out of the pits together, and we'll see how they fare out in relationship to Garros and Carty and Potacek and Freeman Walker, all the guys they were racing with. First out is Solander, and my goodness, he is well out in front of Josh Brain. Josh going to have to hustle to stay in the draft.
Really, really great pit stop there from Andre Solander. That's going to super help him in track position. As we see him starting out, as we talked about earlier in the race, you got to be careful. These tires do take a minute to warm up a little bit, so he's going to have to watch himself. As we jump back to the lead here, Just Young going strangely wide, coming through turn 7 and 8. Not sure what happened to him there.
We are at the halfway point now. One of the things to watch for when you see drivers start to be really aggressive to get to the front is an indication that maybe they're thinking to pit. They don't mind being in second or third when they're racing midway through the race, but when it's time to go down pit lane, everybody wants to be first down there. You don't want to follow anybody in the pits as they work their way into what will be the corner 13 here. Ari Lyondike, they'll get some momentum out of here. Let's see if anyone's going to bite for pit lane, and I don't think so this time. We're going to stay.
I thought for a second Yunk may have done... Oh, no! Anderson dives into the pits. Here we go. He is the first of our main leaders to take the bite of the apple of the pit lane. We'll have to see what he can do.
This is why Soup mentioned the qualifying times. Anderson was considerably faster than both Burns and Yunk. Anderson may think, you guys are just riding on my coattails. I'll come in here. I can be faster by myself, even with lap traffic out there. Then you guys can be together. He brings his frosted purple machine in to the pit lane. He's got 4 wins, looking to be 5 in a row here. 2 wins away from catching the roll in Estonian. There goes the brick as he pulls out, cycling out in 8th position.
And with a perfectly clear track in front of him, that's going to set him up to have just a monster outlap here, as Yost Young and David Burns have now got to be thinking about, okay, do I try to match that and minimize time, or do maybe I go for a little bit of an overcut here, try to put less fuel on the tank and try to get past Anderson that way?
These guys have 2 options. They can decide to work together and see if they can leapfrog and get their lap times faster than what Anderson could run by themselves, or basically come in and just do a cover here. Come in, do their stops, and try to get out in the same vicinity as the frosted purple machine that's out there racing full song right now. They work their way, these 2, down into the Audi S. A technical little right, left, right kind of double chicane. Let's stay on these guys and see if they pit this time. I think, DJ, this will tell us a lot. I don't see any reason either pit now or pit when the fuel tank is dry. I don't see any reason to not to do something in between.
You're right, Soup. It's going to be one or the other at this point, as we're going to have to see. It looks like Yunk and Burns, both of them. Yep, there we go.
Just trying to give the commentators a hard time. I think they can see the writing on the wall. There are other drivers who have yet to stop. That's going to give Christopher Garros. Garros is going to come in. Looks like it's a pit party. I didn't get my invitation. Everybody coming in. Did anybody stay out?
I think Walker is the only one to stay out at this point, as Garros, Potacek, Carty, and Silva all diving down into pit lane. As we see here, Lee Anderson coming down onto the main straight. Is he going to be able to get out in front of Yunk and Burns? Let's wait and see.
Yunk is rolling. I think Yunk's going to get out onto the track first. And since he gets into Tarzan, you really don't need to get your momentum up. You kind of just get your track position in there in Tarzan. So Young is going to be ahead of Anderson and Burns. These guys have all done this long enough. Sure enough, they all come out relatively close. I don't think anybody's far enough away to pull away.
Coming out just in the exact same order they were before the pit stops. And to your point, Soup, when you come out of the pits on those cold tires, yes, you got to keep an eye on it, make sure it's fine. But ultimately, when it comes to braking, you're not having to apply that much force, and it's kind of easier to take the corner the way it is. As we see here, Ryan Walker in the GSRC car working his way around, coming in. I would imagine he's going to probably be in on this lap or next, unless he is going for a crazy fuel-saving stop in an effort to try to just jump up as far as possible.
Well, we know what's going on up front as we look at Walker. Yeah, he'll be coming in this time. Let's jump to 6th position, because this is that battle we were watching in the second train. Who's out in front? Well, it's Potacek with Brain behind him. Garros is still in the mix. Remember we talked about Josh Brain? Well, he's sitting back there in 9th, and Nick Carty is there as well. So the only driver that's really missing is Walker, and that's because he needs to make a stop. So I'd imagine Walker's going to cycle out somewhere in the middle there.
I think with the times he's running based off of it, it looks like he may get past a little bit like he's standing still. I think coming in this late is going to end up hurting him as he finally does dive to the pits with only about a 15 second gap back to this pack, so he may get caught out napping here.
Well, when you think about it, Ryan was at the back of the train, maybe the slowest of that second group. So, yeah, that could be a possibility. Maybe that lap out by himself, maybe he overestimated his hot lapping ability. Ryan's a buddy of ours. We can give him a little hard time. He starts to roll now. Let's see how it plays out. Yeah,
the reverse commentator's curse on that one. I think he's going to get out ahead. He made us eat our words there, Soup.
Oh, that's that leads me to believe that maybe he's out in front because he didn't put in a whole lot of fuel. We'll see how that plays out. Again, if you got your clipboards, put a little circle around Ryan Walker running out of fuel near the end. Something is fishy in Denmark, or in this case, I guess it would mean Holland.
Yeah, Walker's stop was about 2 to 3 seconds shorter than most of the guys around him. So that could be a little bit of gamesmanship, maybe just giving something for his fellow commentators to talk about.
All right, our director has read my mind, and he's got us up front. Let's see what's going on here, because now, this with 13 minutes ago, this racing starts to be a little more meaningful. The frosted purple car inside the hot dog machine. That is Young inside of Anderson now. Anderson fighting to stay in there. Watching again from 3rd position, David Burns. Don't expect Burns to be back there in 3rd when we get closer to the end. They come out of Vodafone now, heading down into the Audi S. Oh, they got to get this sorted out. There's too many corners to go through here side by side, and Anderson realizes this.
Yeah, Anderson once again looking at that discretion being the better part of valor, as Young has looked really scruffy this lap, and Anderson is making him pay, thinking about diving down to the inside on turn 12. Once again, Anderson really riding that curb hard, going to try to get a run down into turn 1. I think we're going to have another shootout as they come down the main straight.
Young's nickname is the Junkyard Dog. Scruffy is the perfect adjective for that driver. Look at Junk play defense now. But Anderson had the momentum out of Lyondike. He's got a half car length lead. I don't think he's going to be able to close the door. And now the outside line is where Anderson's going to have to go. Again, Young drifts a little bit high. Anderson leaves him plenty of room. The pass was not made. And Burns is back there saying, holy moly, I don't want any part of that.
That was an incredible corner sequence there from Young, basically being later onto the brakes, knowing where Anderson was going to be, slowing the car down on the apex, forcing Anderson to back off. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the textbook definition of defensive driving. Young putting on a masterclass on how to defend a position.
We didn't follow the leaders much early on. We're going to focus a lot of our attention up here in these final 12 minutes with the leaders. We will check in on that battle behind these guys. But right now, let's go ahead and follow this as Young is really working the car, trying to make that car wider than a Julia Roberts smile right now. Anderson all over him, trying to get around him, watching his Burns.
Burns just sitting there, waiting, and do not be surprised as within the next, I would say, 5 to 6 minutes, if we see David Burns just put on the afterburners and go for this, as he's been very, very smart, laying back in the weeds, waiting for things to come to him.
While we stay on the leaders, you can peek over on our tower. You can see Ryan Walker still in 4th. We don't know if he has enough fuel to get to the end, but he's comfortable right now. These 3 cars, what a great camera shot as we kind of follow these drivers around the corner on our drone cam. Now they come at you with this low angle shot. Yellow, purple, and then I have no idea, the red and silver car of Burns. Let's hope I got those right.
Did indeed get him right, Stoop. As you see, Anderson now trying again to the outside. He had a much better run out of Lyondike there. This may give him a little bit more momentum, but as they cross the line, Joost Junk was just ahead of him. We're going to see if he's going to be able to turn this again. Once again, late on the brakes from Junk. Anderson forced to take a different line, going for the over-under. He's going to try to force the issue, but Junk covering off that line once again and keeping Anderson behind him.
Here's something to note. 3/1000ths of a second was Anderson's advantage over Junk that time. Yeah, Anderson couldn't finish the pass down into Tarzan, but he was first to the line, and that's all you need to do when that checker flag is waving. You don't need to race into quarter number 1. You just need to be first to the finish line. Anderson knows he can do it now from second position if he needs to. I don't think he's that comfortable in doing it. I think he'd like to be out front and play defense the way that I see that Frost's Purple machine working.
That is his preferred position. I think he's starting to get a little bit of the red mist. His car is slipping and sliding over the line there and tries to go for the pass coming into 7 and 8.
We about Anderson not picking up any incident points. He only has 1 all season. Might have picked one up there as he was really testing the track boundaries. Burns back there watching. These guys are 12 seconds ahead of Ryan Walker, who is still 3 seconds ahead of Vincent Bream. This is where the action is. We can't get away because I think we are just one blink of an eye away from a disaster happening. Now here comes Anderson again, DJ.
He does indeed. There he goes, tightened down on the inside. Junk holding that corner once again. Burns just staying behind. Anderson gets a great run out of turn 11 there. He's going to, I think, try to do that same launch he did coming through 12 and 13. We're going to have to see. Ooh, big twitch from both of the cars. As Anderson continues to run that super duper low line, cutting the grass there through 12 as they blast onto the main straight.
Let's the yellow car plays defense. It looks like he does as he goes track right. It almost looks like they're going into pit lane. Talk about Junk. He says, put on the reggae music, Lee Anderson. If you're going to pass me, you're going to have to do it high. Anderson says, okay. They are now side by side as they go into Tarzan. But once again, the yellow and pink car of the Junkyard Dog is able to fend off the purple car of Lee Anderson.
The masterclass brilliance of Joost Junk to defend that position is just incredible to watch, even with the, dare I say it, slightly Schumacher move there of pushing all the way down onto the pit wall.
Let's give a tip of the hat to the patience of David Burns, who just sits back. I think he realizes nothing's going to be done right now. If he's going to make a move, maybe on the white flag, he's just feeling it out, but he's watching. He's a 2-time champion. He's competitive. He will race with these guys as they work their way now through these 3 corners that are named after sponsors, through Marlboro, heading down into Renault. This is the sweeping right-hander here. And then the looping left-hander, that is Vodafone. Look at the run from Anderson here. This has not been a passing spot. He's just putting the pressure on the Junkyard Dog.
He is indeed taking that advice that I offered up as just trying to force the guy into a mistake, as he's going to try to maybe get a run down here into the Audi S's. He's going to push, try to take that outside line, thinks better of it, falls back into single file order as they come through here. He once again, nope, he didn't get as good of a jump off the line as possible there. We'll have to see what he can do.
Potocek has had an issue. He was trying to run down Ryan Walker. It was a self-spin. He was racing in, I think, 10th position at the time, right in front of Rickard De Silva. De Silva had no problem getting around him. So Potocek is now out of the mix for a possible podium. If something happened to these leaders as they race with 7 to go. Look at this now. Anderson with a half-car length lead on the outside. Again, Anderson was first to the line, this time by 3/100ths of a second. Are they going to touch? They do, but they each keep it going. Anderson gets the worst for wear as he's going to lose the position to Burns, but I think he's going to be able to gather up and stay in the draft. Burns gets second. Junk holding down the lead.
Going back to a replay on this, as you see it, Anderson having the best run he's had thus far. Great view here from David Burns. This is the best seat and a half for all this action. Once again, Junk going to the inside, Anderson to the outside. They come through, Junk diving down, protecting that inside line. Anderson going for the over-under, just a little bit of slight tire contact. It doesn't look like there's any damage to either of those cars, but just an unfortunate situation from what has been a perfectly clean race.
What a great choice of camera from our director as we got the onboard from Burns watching it. You could see the young car really bounce and the junkyard dog able to keep it clean. Let's go back up front right now. Now, this is the opportunity for Burns, who's been sitting back there in third position. Now he gets a chance to work on the yellow and pink car of Yost.
I may have spoken too soon about any car damage because Joost Junk making for a very good Fast and the Furious imitation there coming through turns 7 and 8, just letting that tail end slide out. Burns lining in behind him as they go down into the Audi S. We're going to have to see if he's going to be able to get the kind of runs that Anderson has had coming down into the main straightaway.
I want you to look at the tower in fourth position. We're not going to go there, but Ryan Walker hanging on to that fourth spot. Boy, you were right about Junk, but he is really working the car. But look who is back, the frosted purple machine of Lee Anderson. He's right back in the mix. I don't think he's happy in third position. Let's see what he does as they come down the main straight. Everybody playing the defensive line. Who can get farther to track right?
Looks a little bit more like a open wheel oval line trying to break the draft as they almost go 3 wide. Burns going to the outside. Anderson going to look down to the inside. They are 3 wide on the exit. Burns has to fall back a little bit. Anderson on now, lining up for the outside, and he's going to lose that position to Burns, but that was an incredible sequence for those 3 drivers to keep it off the wall.
Through Hugenholtz now, this left-hander that goes all the way around, almost 180 degrees. Now back on the gas. Just under 5 minutes of racing to go. Junk able to fend off the attack either from Burns or Anderson. They are coming at him that time, DJ, from all sides.
Just 3 wide. I would never, ever, ever, ever advise anyone of going 3 wide into Tarzan at Zandvoort, but those guys made it look easy as just perfect brake application to keep everything in line. Anderson now really darting this way and that, trying to find a way by Burns. I think he's absolutely furious at getting passed by Junk, and he wants to continue his winning streak here.
Out of Vodafone has been a passing opportunity. It's corner number 9. Let's see what kind of run they have right now. I have seen them make shots down into the Audi S. It doesn't look like anybody's being positioned this time. They will wait. They will work around corner number 12 and then get to the R.A. Lyondike corner, the final corner 13, and see if we can get a pass made. As we are under 4 minutes to go, Anderson stuck back in third.
They keep all line astern here, coming through that Audi S. Burns had a little bit of a scruffy exit of turn 9, brushing over the curve just a little bit. And now we've got some lap traffic in front, which is going to make things very interesting as they come down the main straight. We'll have to see if Junk continues to take that super defensive line down to the pit wall.
They're going to get Bell at a real good time. It is the straightaway. Unfortunately, Bell doesn't know where to hide here as these guys like to take weird lines. Lift, Michael, lift. You don't want to lead these guys down into Tarzan, but I don't think they're going to get this, and I think lap traffic is going to be an issue. Junk would like to get into Tarzan first. Bell is forced to go to the outside. Hopefully the slower driver is able to keep the car under control. Great piece of driving from Bell as he takes the wide line. He lets the 3 leaders go by. Michael, nice job.
Very, very good job. Very heads up as he kept that line coming down into 1. I was a little bit scared, but everything turned out fine. As Burns getting a little bit wide there, a little bit loose coming through turn 3. We're going to line up here down onto this long straightaway, shooting into the sweeping right-hand turn at turn 6. It looks like Anderson's going to poke his nose out a little bit, just trying to find a way by, trying to force Burns into a mistake, but Burns having nothing of it.
Very unusual for a Formula Neagle race so late in the race lap count, where you usually would see drivers swapping position. Right now, Joost Junk is playing great defense, making that car harder to pass than a $3 bill as they work their way through Renault.
And Junk now continuing to take those defensive lines, those slightly off what you would expect lines, making Burns have to reevaluate everything, make sure he's not going to run into the back of him. That combined with the continued attack from Lee Anderson, really just not giving Burns the surefire attack opportunities he wants to have to try to win this race.
Patience is all well and good, but I don't think Lee Anderson can win from third. He's got to pick up a spot. Burns probably doesn't think he needs to get a spot. Maybe he thinks he can snake the win out of the final corner. Joost Junk is out in front, and that's where clearly he wants to stay, as here we go down to the straight, maybe for the second to the last time.
That's right, as our director's telling us that the white flag will be waved here. Yunk once again taking that defensive line down to the pit wall, forcing Burns to go the long way around as he and Anderson both dive to the outside line. Anderson coming back to the inside. Yunk is going to be able to hold that line, but here comes Burns trying for the over-under. Yunk covers him off. Anderson is still back in third.
Boy, that was a now or never move by David Burns. He couldn't get it done. I don't know if there is an opportunity to get the pass done. Burns was clearly behind at the start-finish line that time. Anderson knows that if he wants to get his win streak to continue, he's got to get around Burns to have a shot at Yunk out of Lyondike. This is desperation time.
It's desperation, but these guys are smart and they're good enough that I don't think they're going to do a full send here, and hopefully we'll be able to keep this as good, clean racing as they dive down into turn 6. Yunk defending that inside line. Anderson may have a little bit of a run here coming down into Masters. We'll have to see. No, he backs off.
He really wants to pick up that spot. Yunk really working the car now as they go through Renault. Now they head to corner number 9. This is the sweeping left-hander that is Vodafone. You can get a run out of here and get a shot down into the Audi S. It's a possibility for Anderson and the frosted purple machine to do it. They come in on that. Yunk goes a little bit wide. That opens the door for Anderson if he wants it. He's in the draft. Let's see if he forces the issue as they have the right-hander coming up. Burns trying to get to the inside. Yunk is trying to leave him a little bit room. Now he eases over. He's going to be a tight entry in. They go through first the left-hander, now the right-hander. This may open the door for Burns to get a run out of here. Anderson trying to get a momentum. 2 corners to go. They are both right-handers as they come up. First corner number 12, then the final run to the finish line. Anderson doing everything he can to get on Burns. Burns with about a car length back. He looks to be in great position. If he can get a good drive off the final corner, I think he is there. He swings to the outside. Now it's a matter of scooting up in your chair. Burns scooting up, using his Flintstone feet. He's pulled to the lead. I think he's going to get it. The winner is going to be David Burns. He snakes it at the end. Yunk gets second. Anderson third. Let's go back to Ryan Walker. Does he have enough fuel to get there? Oh, I have Chicken Little. The sky is falling. And Ryan Walker gets 4th position. Nice job on the pit stop from Walker.
Brilliant move from him there, as I think it looks like he's literally running out of fuel as we speak. An amazing move from David Burns, just getting the power down at the absolute right point, and it looked like maybe forcing a little bit of wheel spin out of US Yunk. That was, Soup, a battle for the ages as you watch on replay.
Garros and Carty go 5th and 6th. Bream goes 7th. We'll come back and run down the entire finish. Oh, we're going to watch the replay. Here we go. Watch the car in second. DJ was all about the interval that he left going into the final corner.
Exactly. Very much like when you talk about driving an open wheeler on an oval. It's about timing your passes. He was able to pull out about a half a car length gap to Yunk in front, knowing that he could just put the power down right at the apex and blast by. That may be one of the most heads-up plays I have seen a driver make in a very, very long time.
Back in third, waited for the contact between Yunk and Anderson to pick up a spot, then was able to snake it at the end. That's how you get to be a 2-time champion. The streak is over for Lee Anderson. David Burns has the momentum going into season number 22. The racing is over. Our broadcast is not. We're going to take a short break. We will come back and run down the entire finishing order, talk to some of the drivers before we put a lock on the gate for season 21. Back in a few. Sanctioned by the Absolute Beginner League from Circuit Zandvoort. Welcome back to GSRC's final round coverage of this, the 21st edition of the Formula Neagle Championship. Well, the streak is over. Lee Anderson finally has to settle for a non-victorious position as David Burns was able to get the win. Man, it was exciting. Young held the lead for most of the end of the race, but Burns was able to get there when it counted. Young will have to settle for second. Anderson will get the final podium spot. We talked about Ryan Walker. We kind of laughed at what he did with such a short pit stop. He was at the back of that second train. By the pit stop cycle, he was at the front of the train and was able to nurse it home for fourth position. Great run from Walker. Christopher Garros and Nick Carty go fifth and sixth. Vincent Brame, David Burns' teammate for Two Stupid Dogs, they secured the team championship as Brame gets seventh. Josh Brain and Joe Cole go eighth and ninth. And Rickard De Silva, only time we got to watch him is when Potacek spun in front of him. De Silva gets that final 10th position. DJ?
And speaking of the double, Potacek coming home in 11th place, followed by Kai Alpstead, Troy Banks, and Neil Bamber. Coming home 15th is Matt Tempest. In 16th place is going to be Mackenzie Mann, followed by the last guy on the lead lap, Joseph Kanivi. Then starting the lapped cars, Michael Bell in 18th, Jason Guerrara in 19th, and Eric Lundberg in 20th.
I'm going to tip the hat to all the drivers that we didn't have to use the GSRC Wayback Machine very often. Look at these guys, even in 21st position. This is Rob Izinga. He's going to be on the lead, one lap down. Then we get into guys who had trouble. Andre Solander will finish in 22nd position, but I think it's probably enough for him to secure. Ooh, I don't know. I don't want to say that as I don't know if they pay points out to 22. We'll have to make sure we check that. Paul Beatty is in 23rd spot, and Edgar Santinelli did take the grid. All right, we are able to do interviews right now. I have the honor of talking to two-time champion and race winner David Burns. David, you didn't lead many, but you led when it counted.
No, I couldn't decide whether I wanted to eat more popcorn or get the win, because I thought I was going to get fat at that point. I didn't think I was going to get that.
You're back there. I'm not sure you would have. You couldn't win it from third. The mistake from Anderson and Burns, or from Anderson and Young, gave you that opportunity to get into the striking position.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I kind of thought it was going to happen, though. It's why, I don't know if you know, I was backed off a little bit to give me room, but I thought I'm ready to pounce if there is a mistake, and I thought it's now or never. So, yeah, just stuck it in there, and it worked.
Well, talk about now or never. I thought it was now or never for you in the final shot down into Tarzan on the final lap, but you decided to wait. But talk about leaving a gap. The gap you left out of the final corner to get that run was perfect as you were able to get the momentum.
Well, the funny thing was, because I saw Yus was very good at defending, I thought, well, I'm going to put it into the corner anyway and see if I can get round him or I can get up the inside of him. But every single time I was doing it, I was seeing, where is the line when I'm left of him? And I thought, oh, I'm going to have to be so close. It's ridiculous, but it worked.
It was, you were back there. I could tell you were in good position as you came out. You had the good momentum. You got there. You stopped the win streak of Lee Anderson, and you got a little momentum going into season 22. We're going to see you next season?
Oh, for sure. I'm not going anywhere.
Let's see if you can pick up a third. Congratulations on the win, baby.
Thanks, guys. Cheers for the broadcast.
Gets another win. He doesn't have as many. You think a two-time champion would have more. He has a handful, so he'll be happy to get this one. All right, DJ, who you got?
Well, I've got the fuel-saving master, Ryan Walker. Ryan, how'd you pull that off out there on the fuel?
Yeah, I'm somewhat shocked about that myself, actually. But I was stuck behind some of the pack in the close, or the early stages rather, and I couldn't get a run on anyone, so I thought I would just sit back, just stay, not do anything silly, just sit back, use the slipstream to save some fuel, and then when it came to the pit stop, I put in the exact amount of fuel needed to my fuel calculator, what my fuel calculator told me, sorry, put that in, and managed to jump 2 or 3 people and get into fourth. And it wasn't until I exited the pits that someone on Discord that said to me, oh yeah, well done, Ryan, you've jumped a few people. I was like, okay, that was a bit of a shock.
It was a bit of a shock for us as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, how close were you on fuel? It looks like you kind of ran out right as you crossed the line.
Honestly, I had about 0.1 gallons as I crossed the line. And then as I cruised around turn 1 after the checkered flag, I literally had 0.0 gallons. So it was a close call.
I love that. There's nothing I love more than watching a good fuel strategy come together. Ryan, we going to be able to see you next season for Formula Neagle here?
Oh yeah, I'll be back. I've enjoyed my first season in the Absolute Beginners League and Formula Eagle, and I'll definitely be back next season.
Fantastic. Anybody you need to thank before we go?
First of all, for the guys that put on, or the team behind the scenes that put on the show at ABL, and of course to you guys for putting on the broadcast today.
Thank you, Ryan. Calling a race like that is our absolute pleasure. Soup, back to you.
To Ryan. I didn't think he was going to get there, to be honest. Congratulations to him. He fooled me. We have some thanks. How about thanking the people at the Absolute Beginner League for organizing Formula Neagle and contracting with GSRC to broadcast. Thanks to the company's equipment and software that you see on the screen right now, we use to bring cyberspace into your place. The original music that gives every GSRC production that unique flavor and feel. That's thanks to June Lalonde. See the screen for contract information. On screen now are some of the upcoming broadcasts. Check those out and mark them down on your calendar. This broadcast concludes GSRC's Formula Neagle coverage for Season 21, but fear not, if asked, we'll be back to bring you all the action for Season 22. If you'd like more information about GSRC, including a complete list of future broadcasts and maybe when Season 22 starts for Formula Neagle, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also at Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. And while you're here, if you haven't done so yet, become a GSRC YouTube subscriber by hitting that button on our YouTube channel. If you're looking for a unique gift, check out our merchandise store at GSRCStoreNV.com. Sadly, our fashionable masks are no longer in stock, but there's still lots of good things to pick up there at the store. You'll enjoy a visit there. Finally, on behalf of the entire crew, and that would be GJ, Joe, and Dougie, I'd like to thank all of you for watching, as it was indeed two-time champion David Third Degree Burns, who picks up the win here at Zandvoort. With that said, we're off to have fun, storm of the castle. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.